Charles Manson, a name synonymous with evil, continues to fascinate and horrify decades after his heinous crimes shocked the world. His story is not just one of violence, but also of manipulation, charisma, and the dark side of human nature. Born in 1934, Manson evolved from a troubled youth into one of the most notorious cult leaders in history. His early life was marked by neglect and crime, setting the stage for his later infamy. His ability to manipulate and control his followers, known as the Family, led to a series of gruesome murders that terrorized California in the late 1960s. Manson's followers were often young, disillusioned individuals who were easily swayed by his promises of a utopian future. Manson's story is a chilling reminder of the dark potential that lies within seemingly ordinary individuals. His trial was one of the most sensational in American history, drawing massive media attention and public fascination. This essay delves into the life and crimes of Charles Manson, exploring the factors that shaped him, the motivations behind his actions, and the lasting impact he has had on our understanding of cult psychology. By examining Manson's life, we gain insight into the vulnerabilities that can lead individuals down a path of destruction and the societal conditions that can give rise to such figures. Charles Manson's early life was marked by instability and neglect. Born to a teenage mother who was often absent, he spent his formative years shuttled between relatives and institutions. He experienced poverty, abuse, and a lack of parental guidance. Manson's troubled childhood left him with deep emotional scars and a distorted worldview. He turned to petty crime at an early age, cycling in and out of juvenile detention centers. These experiences further hardened him, fostering a sense of alienation and resentment towards society. By his early 20s, Manson had already spent a significant portion of his life incarcerated, setting the stage for his descent into darkness. While incarcerated, Manson began to develop his skills as a manipulator. He studied the teachings of Scientology and other belief systems, incorporating elements into his own twisted philosophy. Manson craved attention and sought to exert power over others. He discovered that he could exploit people's vulnerabilities, using charisma and a carefully crafted persona to gain their trust and loyalty. Upon his release from prison in 1967, Manson drifted to San Francisco, where the counterculture movement was in full swing. He saw an opportunity to prey on the idealistic young people who flocked to the city seeking spiritual enlightenment and a sense of belonging. Manson established a commune-like following in the California desert, attracting a group of disaffected individuals, mostly young women, who became known as the Family. He presented himself as a guru-like figure, preaching a bizarre mix of peace, love, and impending apocalyptic race war. Manson used a combination of charm, intimidation, and psychological manipulation to maintain control over his followers. He encouraged drug use, sexual promiscuity, and unquestioning obedience. The Family became increasingly isolated from the outside world, their perception of reality shaped entirely by Manson's teachings. He instilled in them a dangerous us versus them mentality, claiming that they were chosen and that violence was sometimes necessary to achieve their goals. The Dark Side of the Dream, the Tate LaBianca Murders. In the summer of 1969, Manson's twisted ideology culminated in a series of horrific murders that shocked the nation. The events unfolded over 2 nights, leaving a trail of blood and terror that would forever scar the American psyche. The Manson family, as they were known, operated under the delusional leadership of Charles Manson, a failed musician who had managed to gather a group of devoted followers. Driven by Manson's desire to ignite a race war, which he referred to as Helter Skelter, members of the family committed a string of brutal killings. Manson believed that these murders would spark an apocalyptic race war, after which he and his followers would emerge as the new leaders of a restructured society. His followers, deeply indoctrinated and willing to do anything for their leader, carried out his horrific plans with chilling precision. Their victims included actress Sharon Tate, who was 8 months pregnant, and several of her friends at her home in Benedict Canyon. Tate, a rising star in Hollywood, was married to director Roman Polanski. The brutality of her murder, along with the deaths of her friends, sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry and beyond. The following night, they struck again, murdering Leno and Rosemary LaBianca in their Los Angeles home. The LaBiancas were a wealthy couple who had no connection to Manson or his followers, making their deaths seem even more senseless and random. The randomness of the attacks added to the public's fear, as it seemed no one was safe from the Manson family's reach. The murders were particularly gruesome, marked by excessive violence and cryptic messages scrawled in blood at the crime scenes. These messages, intended to incite further chaos and fear, only added to the horror of the crimes. The sheer brutality and apparent lack of motive left the public and law enforcement in a state of shock and confusion. The brutality of the crimes sent shockwaves through the nation, shattering the illusion of peace and love associated with the hippie movement. The Manson family's actions marked a dark turning point in the 1960s, a decade that had been characterized by its countercultural movements and a sense of optimism. The murders served as a grim reminder of the potential for violence lurking beneath the surface of even the most idealistic of times. Justice and its aftermath, trials, convictions, and life sentences. The investigation into the Tate LaBianca murders was lengthy and complex. Initially, authorities struggled to connect the seemingly random acts of violence. However, the investigation eventually led them to Manson and his followers. The subsequent trial became a media sensation, captivating the nation and exposing the dark underbelly of the counterculture movement. Manson and several of his followers were convicted of murder and conspiracy to commit murder. They were sentenced to death, but their sentences were later commuted to life in prison when California abolished the death penalty. Manson remained unrepentant for his crimes, continuing to exert influence over his followers from behind bars. A legacy of terror, Manson's enduring grip on popular culture. Despite his imprisonment, Charles Manson's legacy of terror continues to captivate and disturb. His crimes have been the subject of countless books, documentaries, and films, cementing his place in popular culture as the epitome of evil. Manson's image, with his piercing gaze and swastika carved into his forehead, has become an instantly recognizable symbol of madness and violence. His name is synonymous with cult leadership, manipulation, and the dangers of blind obedience. The enduring fascination with Manson and his crimes speaks to our primal fear of the unknown and the unsettling realization that even seemingly ordinary individuals are capable of extraordinary acts of evil. The psychology of a cult leader understanding Manson's power. Charles Manson's ability to attract and control his followers has been the subject of much study and debate. His influence was not just a matter of charisma, but a complex interplay of psychological manipulation and social dynamics. Psychologists and sociologists have identified several key factors that contributed to his success as a cult leader. These factors include his ability to read people, his understanding of their deepest fears and desires, and his skill in exploiting these vulnerabilities. Manson possessed a charismatic personality and a keen understanding of human psychology. He was able to present himself as a father figure, a guru, and a savior, all rolled into one. He preyed on the vulnerabilities of his followers, offering them a sense of belonging, purpose, and unconditional love. Many of his followers were young, disillusioned, and searching for meaning in a turbulent era. Manson also used a variety of manipulative techniques, including sleep deprivation, drug use, and psychological pressure, to break down his followers' resistance and make them more susceptible to his influence. These methods were designed to disorient and weaken their ability to think critically. He created an environment of fear and isolation, where his word was law and questioning his authority was not an option. This atmosphere of control and dominance ensured that his followers remained loyal and obedient, often to the point of committing heinous acts in his name. Lessons learned: safeguarding against cult influence. The story of Charles Manson and his followers serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of cult influence. It highlights the importance of critical thinking, healthy skepticism, and maintaining strong personal boundaries. While it is difficult to completely protect ourselves from the allure of charismatic individuals who prey on our vulnerabilities, understanding the tactics used by cult leaders can help us to recognize and resist their influence. By promoting education about cult dynamics and fostering open communication within families and communities, we can create a safer and more resilient society that is less susceptible to the manipulations of those who seek to exploit and control others.